So this is from an essay which is more largely about the myth of the bohemian and the nature of creativity and all that. And it's called Isn't It Romantic? And, you know, the answer is, of course, no, it isn't. Creativity demands an ability to be with oneself at one's least attractive, that it is sometimes easier just to do nothing. Writing, I can only speak to writing here, always starts out as shit. An infant of monstrous aspect, bawling, ugly, terrible, and it stays terrible for a long, long time, sometimes forever. Unlike cooking, for example, where largely edible, if raw ingredients are assembled, cut, heated, and otherwise manipulated into something both digestible and palatable, writing is closer to having to reverse engineer a meal out of rotten food. So truly, if you're already getting laid and you have managed to fall in with an attractive and like-minded group without the added indignity of diving face first into a cesspool every single time you sit down to write, no one understands better than I do why you might not bother. The rude precariousness of this constant beginnerhood would be enough disincentive without the added mindfuck of how diametrically counter the creative trajectory runs to all other tasks. Among the multitude of reasons that it is better to be a grown-up than a child, just one of them is the mastery of the physical world. As a child, the distance between desire and execution was a maddeningly unbridgeable chasm. What the mind's eye pictured and what the body could achieve were altogether different. Those stubby safety scissors could only ever cut an edge that was ragged and inelegant. Glitter was invariably swallowed up into the pile of carpets, as if by malicious intent, like Charlie Brown's grinning kite-eating tree. The dried macaroni we were forced to incorporate into designs didn't have the decency to stay on the page despite the glue getting everywhere. Even at age 4, I understand this to be the lowest form, the operetta of visual art. Regardless of the medium, everything that at that age ended up a muddy, crumb-flecked mess. In John Guare's play, 6 Degrees of Separation, the protagonist, Flan, says, "When the kids were little, we went to a parents' meeting at their school, and I asked the teacher why all her students were geniuses in the 2nd grade. Matisse is every one. What is your secret?" And this is what she said. "Secret? I don't have any secret. I just know when to take their drawings away from them." Rather than a time of wonder and innocence, the all of it was a daily exercise in frustration and chubby-fingered inefficacy. But then hands grow from smudging little mitts into useful instruments. The soup does not splash up over the rim. The glitter, should one ever be moved to use any, would stay where it was meant to. One progresses from novice to adept with a soothing reliability, except for writing. Well into adulthood, writing has never gotten easier. It still only ever begins badly, and there are no guarantees that this is not the day when the jig is finally up. And yet I don't for a moment forget that this is not a life of mining coal, waiting tables, or answering someone's phone for a living, 2 of which I have done. Each morning begins suffused with this sense of privilege, shell pink, and pulsing with new hope. The terrors and agitations of the night fade away, and here it is, the clean expanse that is 6 a.m., free of almost anything but promise. Caffeination, evacuation, ablution, through all of which I spool out lovely and eloquent paragraphs in my head. And so to the gym, where the lungs take in the new air and the fresh blood courses, and look, here it is barely 8:30. You'll be home and at your desk, scribbling away before other folks have even gotten to work. What grandiose hopes for the deathless prose that will be hoiked up from your depths, taking as evidence the sentences that flow easily through the mind as you do your crunches, the language graceful, propelled forward by the power of its own logic, a slinky waterfalling effortlessly down a staircase. The toddlers of the daycare center next door are delivered. The carousing teenagers from the high school across the street deposit their cell phones and dime bags into the shrubbery by the stoop and line up for the metal detectors. The computer is turned on, opening up the file left the day before. Today will be good, you think. Not like the previous day's lack of industry, a shameful waste of phone calls, emails, snacking, and onanism. Yes, it is all about today. But first, the crossword. And what does Paul Krugman have to say? Oh, that Gail Collins. Love her. Email, has it been checked in the last 40 seconds? And now a snack. A friend calls. She can't settle either. Midday already? The toddler's now screaming or picked up from next door. Sit down and write a sentence, for God's sake. One fucking sentence. It won't kill you. It almost kills you. Funny thing about words, regarded individually or encountered in newspapers or books written by other people, they are as lovely and blameless as talcum sweet babies. String them together into a sentence of your own, however, and these cooing infants become a savage gang straight out of Lord of the Flies. A sullen coven with neither conscience nor allegiance. It will take the civilizing influence of repeated revision to whip them into shape, an exhausting prospect. Time for that late afternoon power nap. 10 minutes is all I need, and then I'm good for the rest of the day, you brag to anyone who cares to listen. You rise refreshed, your sense of creative optimism restored, or it would be if it wasn't for the maniac crinkling that cellophane wrapper. Who the hell does he think he is? Stand at the window, scan the sidewalk like a crazy person. Uh-oh. Here comes that bitch with her schnauzers again. Log on to the dog beat site and wait yet again and see how long the average lifespan is for such a creature. How much Xanax crushed up into some ground beef would it take? Never mind. Sit back down. And nothing. Whither flown the clarity of those morning insights? How many times must it be demonstrated to you that the interval of genius is as thin and fragile as the skin of an onion, if not downright illusory? And yet you never rush to the desk to get the pearls down on paper, because in the moment of thought, they seem incapable of dissipation. So immortal, so solid in their reasoning, like those musings just before dropping off to sleep. Why disturb this almost slumber by writing? The Brooklyn Bridge doesn't simply crumble because one's gaze has shifted from it. Of course I'll remember something that's obviously axiomatic and brilliant in the morning. Might as well finish eating that dried mango. Oh, Google, how does one make soap? The teenagers leave school, a good 40 minutes of profanity. The street goes quiet again. You can see the custodial staff cleaning the classrooms. The street lights come on. They'd look so pretty against the sapphire of the early evening sky if they didn't also signify the hours you've wasted. If you were any kind of a writer, you'd stay in and do battle, rest the time back, and make the day mean something more than the nothing it is turning out to be. But you are not any kind of writer. Today has proven as much, as did yesterday, and odds are tomorrow will attest to the same. Pregnant with potential has turned into freighted with failure. And so another day fails to meet its promise and is spun out into procrastinatory entropy. You power down the computer. Just before the screen goes dark, the sentence you wrote chuckles and says, "Until tomorrow, maestro." Its tone is contemptuous, vaguely threatening, and deeply reminiscent of somebody's voice you can't quite place. 3 guesses whose. You will see friends and they will ask after your day, and you will complain charmingly, although not nearly as charmingly as you think, about what you haven't accomplished. Sometimes it's just easier to go to dinner, although when you wake briefly at 4 a.m. in an anxious fury with yourself, you will know it is also exponentially so much more difficult to have gone to dinner. That's it.